The implementation of the dissolution program resulted in the almost complete disappearance of the once numerous Greek communities of the islands. In 1970, the numbers of Greek origin inhabitants fell to 2,622 on Imvros and 1,400 on Tenedos. Today there are about 10,000 people on Imvros, of whom only about 300 are of Greek origin and mostly elderly. The rest are Anatolian migrants brought in after 1964. The village of Skinudi, or Dereköy, used to be the biggest in Turkey, with a population of 3,000 Greeks and over 1,000 traditional stone houses, most of which remain now in ruins, making it look like a haunted place. In the Greek village of Castro in 1974, on the day of the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, the Greek population was forced to evacuate the village. They were taken to the seat of Imvros province in army trucks. In the 1980s, the Turkish authorities resettled the village with Turks and guarded the entrances in case the Greeks tried to return. All the males who left the island without serving in the Turkish army were stripped of Turkish citizenship and all adjacent rights. Until 1989, the islands were put under strict isolation. On the pretext of their designation as strategic importance zones, no visitor could travel to the islands without having previously obtained a special permit, which not only caused delay, but also discouraged any communication with the outside world. It's worth noting that until the 1960s, there was only one Ottoman mosque in Imvros, built in the 19th century. The first post-1923 mosque in Imvros, built in the late 1960s, catering for the needs of the Muslim settlers, was given the name Fatih Camize, meaning the Conqueror's Mosque. It was built right upon the old cemetery of the Greek village of Evlampio, or Yeni Mahalle. Reluctant at first to leave the islands, many of the remaining Greeks succumbed to leaving after being subjected to prolonged pressure. Deprived of their main source of income, the aggrieved farmers abandoned the islands, seeking refuge in Greece, Western Europe, the United States, Africa, and Australia. Nevertheless, the islands have produced their fair share of world personalities. Since 1926, a high-ranking prelate representing the Greek Orthodox community in the two islands has belonged to the Holy Synod of the Ecumenical Patriarchate. Imvros has given the Church two of its most illustrious prelates. The present Orthodox Ecumenical Patriarch, Bartholomeus I, is from Imvros, as was the recently deceased Archbishop of North and South America, Iakovos. Public life on the islands at present enjoys a certain relaxation of security, but it's still under the control of the National Security Council. The administration is conducted by the Provincial Administration Board, whose members are all government officials. The participation of Greeks in the public administration is practically non-existent. The Greek minority is represented only in the communal boards of 3 Greek settlements of Imvros. However, their powers are extremely limited. The major difficulties that the Greek islanders encounter are especially evident in property matters. The National Land Registry, introduced in the islands in the 1990s, is used by the Turkish authorities to legitimize the massive expropriations and seizures of land of the previous years, and to deprive the Greeks of the last remnants of their property. Thanks to non-transparent practices, and taking advantage of the absence of Greek landlords, the Turkish authorities either transfer massively properties to the Turkish treasury or give it to the Turkish settlers who claim possession of occupied houses and fields, which the Greeks were forced to abandon in preceding decades. There are also many cases in which land ownership is based on forged or falsified documents, while Turkish authorities do not recognize the validity of the Ottoman titles. Moreover, the right to inherit is not recognized by the land registry in the case of non-Turkish citizens. In 3 large villages in Imvros, land registration is still incomplete and property ownership issues remain in abeyance. In the villages of Castro, or Karaköy, and the Imvros capital Panagia, or Merkez, 95% of property has been recorded in favor of Turkish state or settlers. The 10-year period prescribed by law for contesting registrations has already expired, while the necessary reforms that would allow the original owners to claim their land still remains to be enacted. Reports indicate that in Agridia, or Tepeköy, a village inhabited only by Greeks even today, nearly 80% of the registered properties, including 52 homes, have been recorded in the name of the state treasury. On the other hand, Law 5226 of 2004, which extended the effects of a previous law on the protection of natural and cultural wealth to virtually the entire island, is making the situation even harder. The widespread designation of land and buildings as natural and cultural monuments, and the exclusion of user caption as a means of acquiring title to ownership in all areas where the land registry process has not been completed, has entailed extensive confiscation of property. There are 7 Christian villages in Imvros and 1 in Tenedos. Each village has its own parish church. Further to the parish churches, there's a large number of small country chapels scattered around the island called exoplesia. Despite the fact that all those churches, around 300, constitute part of the heritage of the island, the great majority of them is decaying or in ruins. The ancient church of Aya Marina in the village of Castro, or Kaliköy, was vandalized by the Turks in 1974. Looting is commonplace. In February 1998, priceless relics were stolen from the Church of the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary in the village of Agrithia, or pt.2, on Imvros. 30 icons, Bibles, crosses, and an ornate replica of Christ's tomb vanished. A summer resort reserved for judiciary officials was built on the seaview settlement of Pyrgos after the old church of Saint Anna was completely leveled and destroyed. Moreover, the administration of 2 parish churches, Aya Marina at Castro, or Kaliköy, the former cathedral of the island, and Aya Varvara at Evlampio, Yeni Mahale, has been assumed by the General Directorate of Foundations, which now controls their property and also appoints their trustees. At the same time, other parish churches like Evangelismos, the Annunciation, in Agrithia, or pt.2, are functioning in a legal vacuum, since Turkish authorities refuse to record the temple itself and the rest of the property in the name of the village's parish. In Tenedos, the General Directorate of the Foundations and the Turkish Supreme Court refuse to recognize property rights to the only Orthodox parish church of the island, the Dormition of the Virgin Mary, for more than 50 immovables. Seeking just satisfaction, the trustees of the parish appealed in 2003 to the European Court of Human Rights. The teaching of Greek in the island's schools remains banned. In force for the past 41 years is Turkish Law 502, which bans the employment of Greek teachers and Greek ownership of school properties. Former school buildings are being used for commercial purposes. This restrictive law applies only to Imvros and Tenedos. The establishment of Turkish, free and non-religious education, even if it were the right of the Turkish government to do so, does not necessarily entail the abolition of an existing minority school system, which could well continue to exist side by side with the government educational system. In spite of continuous protests and appeals, a building, which until 1964 had housed a Greek minority school in Gliki, or Eski Bademli, recently opened as a hotel. At the time of its closure, it was the most modern school of the island, built on the exclusive financing and labor of the village's Greek community. The courtyard shared by the building, the church, and the entrance to the village cemetery was closed off with bars, leaving just a narrow passage for the worshippers. Only a few months after the first conversion of a Greek minority school into a hotel, the Muslim head of the joint commune of Skinudi, or Deriköy, and Sahinkaya, has reportedly leased the Greek minority school of Skinudi for the same purpose. The few remaining Greeks on Imvros and Tenedos live in fear and alienation. They have been victims of assault, theft, and even murder, inexcusable on such a small and easily policed island. Policing is, in fact, very lax. In May 2004, a shepherd was found burned and decapitated in his lonely country house. The crime remains unsolved, in addition to the list of unsolved murders of Greeks since the 1970s. In 2005, an 80-year-old man was brutally beaten in Skinudi, or Deriköy, in the presence of Turkish eyewitnesses.